The cold night air was thick with tension. The streetlights flickered dimly above the deserted parking lot where Emma Carter stood, her breath forming small clouds in the chilly air. Her hands trembled, not from the cold, but from the shock of what had just happened inside the company's glass building. She had been forced out, not just from her job, but from the only life she thought she knew. Just moments ago, Emma had sat in the sleek conference room, surrounded by sharp suits and steely eyes. The board members looked at her like she was a problem to be solved, not a person. They spoke in cold, clipped tones, words like restructure, downsizing, and redundant, thrown carelessly in her direction. It was clear she was being pushed out. Emma felt her heart race as she stood up, gathering her things silently. No tears, no protests. She had learned long ago that anger would only make things worse. The door clicked shut behind her, leaving her alone with the weight of uncertainty pressing down on her chest. The company she had dedicated 10 years to was turning its back on her. She had been the one who helped grow the business from a small local firm to a respected name across the country. Yet here she was, pushed aside like an old coat no one wanted anymore. The silence outside was deafening. Emma's mind raced, swirling, with 1,000 questions. What now? Where would she go? How would she survive? She pulled her coat tighter around her and started walking, her footsteps echoing on the empty pavement. The city lights stretched out before her, promising nothing but shadows. For Emma, this was the end of a chapter she hadn't planned to close. But little did she know, it was only the beginning of a story far bigger than she could imagine. Emma wandered through the city streets, memories flooding her mind. Each step felt heavier, as if the weight of her past was pulling her down. She remembered the early days, the long nights, the endless phone calls, the sacrifices she had made. She had believed in the company, in the dream. Now that dream felt shattered. Her phone buzzed in her pocket, a small flicker of distraction. She glanced at the screen, a message from her sister, Claire. "Are you okay? Heard about the news. Call me when you can." Emma hesitated, then typed back, "Not sure yet. I'll call soon." She put the phone away, her fingers brushing the screen as if hoping for some kind of magic to fix things. She found herself at a small cafe, still open at this late hour. The warmth inside was a sharp contrast to the cold outside. Emma ordered a coffee and sat by the window staring out at the quiet street. She didn't notice the barista watching her with curious eyes. 2 weeks passed since that night, and Emma's world had not improved. The shock of losing her job had faded into a dull ache, replaced by the daily struggle to keep going. She had spent hours updating her resume, sending out applications and attending interviews that led nowhere. She felt invisible, like a ghost drifting through a world that had no place for her anymore. The bills piled up, and the savings she had carefully set aside began to dwindle. One afternoon, as Emma was sorting through a stack of mail, a letter caught her eye. It was heavy, official-looking, embossed with a seal she didn't recognize. Her name was written neatly on the envelope. Curious, she tore it open. Inside was a letter from a law firm in New York. The words jumped off the page. "Dear Ms. Carter, we are writing to inform you that you have been named the sole beneficiary in the estate of Jonathan Reynolds, late of Manhattan, New York." Emma's hands shook as she read on. Jonathan Reynolds. The name was familiar but distant, an old family friend, a man she hadn't seen in years. The letter said he had passed away recently, leaving behind an estate worth billions. And astonishingly, Emma was the heir. She read the letter again, disbelief washing over her like a tidal wave. $62 billion. That was no typo. The days that followed were a whirlwind of confusion and disbelief. Emma couldn't sleep, couldn't eat. She kept rereading the letter, trying to understand how her life could change so drastically overnight. Questions flooded her mind. Why her? Why now? What was the connection between her and this mysterious man? Her sister Claire was both shocked and excited when Emma told her the news. "This is crazy. Are you sure it's real?" Emma wasn't sure of anything anymore. She decided to visit the law firm in New York, hoping for answers. The office was sleek and intimidating, with marble floors and walls lined with books. The lawyer, a calm man named Mr. Harris, greeted her warmly. "Ms. Carter, it's good to meet you. I understand this news must be overwhelming." Emma nodded, still trying to keep her composure. Mr. Harris explained that Jonathan Reynolds had been a recluse, a billionaire who had kept his life a private, but in his will he had left everything to Emma, with no clear explanation. "There is one condition," Mr. Harris added cautiously. "You must take care of his foundation, a charity focused on environmental conservation. It's his legacy." Emma felt a mix of emotions. The money could solve her problems, yes, but the responsibility was huge. And something about the story didn't add up. Why would a man she barely knew leave her everything? That night, Emma lay awake, thoughts swirling in her mind. The world she had known was gone. The future was uncertain, but suddenly full of possibilities. She realized her life was about to change in ways she couldn't even imagine, but with great fortune came great danger. Unseen eyes watched from the shadows. People who wanted to claim the fortune for themselves. People who would stop at nothing. Emma had been forced out once. Now she had to fight for her life and the incredible inheritance that no one expected her to claim. Emma's life had flipped upside down in ways she never imagined. The quiet woman who had once been pushed out of her job was now at the center of a story worth billions, a fortune that could buy entire cities. But with the money came questions, dangers, and secrets hidden deep beneath the surface. The morning. Sunlight filtered through the thin curtains of Emma's small apartment. The peacefulness of the moment was a stark contrast to the storm raging inside her mind. The letter from the New York law firm still sat on the kitchen table, a constant reminder of everything that had changed in just a few short weeks. She sipped her coffee slowly, trying to steady her thoughts. There was no doubt the inheritance was real, but the reasons behind it remained a mystery. Jonathan Reynolds, a man she barely remembered, had left her everything, yet no explanation was given. Her phone rang, jolting her from her thoughts. It was Claire. "Emma, you need to be careful," Claire said urgently. "I did some digging, and Jonathan Reynolds wasn't just any billionaire. There's a lot about him that's strange. Some say he had enemies, people who wouldn't hesitate to hurt anyone close to him." Emma's heart pounded. "Enemies? Why would they come after me?" "I don't know yet," Claire replied, "but you have to watch your back." Emma hung up, a cold shiver running down her spine. She knew Claire was right. The inheritance wasn't just a blessing, it was a trap. Suddenly, the threats that lurked in the shadows became very real. She decided to hire a private investigator to learn more about Jonathan Reynolds and the people who might want to harm her. It was a risky move, but she couldn't face this alone. The next day, Emma met with the investigator, a man named Marcus. He was sharp-eyed, with a calm confidence that put her slightly at ease. "I'll start digging into Reynolds' life," Marcus promised. "Anything strange, anyone connected to him, or anyone who might want to get close to you, I'll find out." Emma nodded, feeling a spark of hope. Maybe now she could uncover the truth. Days passed slowly, each one filled with anxiety and uncertainty. Emma found herself unable to focus on anything except the looming questions. Why was she chosen? What secrets did Jonathan hide? And who was watching her? One evening, as Emma returned to her apartment, she noticed a black SUV parked across the street. The windows were tinted, but she felt the eyes behind the glass. Her heart raced. She quickened her pace, entering her building and locking the door behind her. The city's noise faded. replaced by the pounding of her own heartbeat. The phone rang again. This time the voice on the other end was cold and threatening. "Is Carter," the caller said smoothly. "Inheritance is a heavy burden. Some burdens come with consequences." Emma swallowed hard. "Who is this?" "No one you want to meet," the voice replied, before the line went dead. Fear clawed at her chest. The warning was clear. Someone was watching and they meant business. Marcus called the next morning with news. "I found something," he said. Jonathan Reynolds was involved in some risky business ventures, and not all his partners were. "Trustworthy? There are whispers of betrayal and danger." Emma listened carefully, her mind spinning. "Do you think someone wants to take the money from me?" "It's possible," Marcus answered. "You need to be careful." Emma's world became a tangled web of secrets and threats, but amidst the danger, she felt a strange sense of determination rising within her. She wouldn't let fear control her. She decided to visit the foundation Jonathan had left behind, the environmental charity mentioned in the will. Maybe understanding his legacy would help her find answers. The foundation's headquarters was a large, modern building surrounded by greenery. Emma walked through the doors, greeted by friendly staff who welcomed her warmly. She met with the director, Sarah, who showed her the projects they were working on, saving endangered forests, protecting wildlife, and promoting clean energy. "It was Jonathan's dream," Sarah explained. "He cared deeply about the planet." Emma felt a connection to the cause. Maybe this was the key to understanding the man who had left her everything. As Emma toured the foundation, a message arrived on her phone, a photo of her apartment with the words, "We're watching." Her stomach twisted. The danger was closing in. That night, Emma sat alone in her apartment, the city lights glowing outside her window. She thought about everything she'd lost and everything she stood to gain. Her past was behind her, but the future was a battlefield. She would have to fight for her inheritance, for her safety, and for the truth. Suddenly, a noise at the door startled her. She looked up to see a shadow slipping away down the hallway. Emma grabbed her phone and dialed 911. The police arrived quickly, but the intruder was gone. The officers took her statement and promised to increase patrols in the area. But Emma knew this was just the beginning. Someone was trying to scare her, to make her give up. But Emma Carter was not a woman who gave up easily. Over the next few weeks, the threats continued. Mysterious calls, strange people lurking nearby, and cryptic messages. Yet Emma refused to be broken. She worked closely with Marcus and the police, gathering information and building a defense, and through it all, she grew stronger. One afternoon, Marcus called with a breakthrough. "I found a name linked to the threats, a man named Victor Kane. He was a business partner of Jonathan Reynolds, but disappeared after a scandal." Emma frowned. "Could he be behind all this?" "It's likely," Marcus said. "He has the motive and the means." Emma knew she had to confront this head-on. She couldn't run forever. With Marcus's help, she prepared to face Victor Kane and uncover the truth behind Jonathan Reynolds' fortune and the danger that shadowed it. The story was far from over. The mystery deepened, the stakes grew higher, and Emma's courage was about to be tested like never before. Emma's resolve had never been stronger. With Marcus by her side, she was ready to face the storm that threatened her life and her inheritance. But what she was about to uncover would shake her world even more deeply and reveal secrets no one expected. The city skyline gleamed under the afternoon sun as Emma and Marcus approached a nondescript office building in downtown Manhattan. It was old and unassuming, the perfect place for someone like Victor Kane to hide in plain sight. Marcus checked his phone one last time. "This is where we find answers." Emma nodded, her hands clenched tightly at her sides. She was nervous but determined. This confrontation might change everything. They entered the building and took the elevator up to the 12th floor. The hallway was quiet, the hum of fluorescent lights the only sound. At the end of the corridor was a heavy metal door with a small plaque that read, Victor Kane, CEO, Kane Enterprises. Marcus knocked firmly. After a tense moment, the door swung open to reveal a tall, sharp-eyed man in his late 40s. His slicked-back hair and cold smile gave him the look of someone used to control. "Ms. Carter," Victor said smoothly, eyes flicking over her. "I've been expecting you." Emma's heart skipped a beat. How did he know she was coming? "Mr. Kane," she said, trying to keep her voice steady. "We need to talk about Jonathan Reynolds, about the inheritance, and the threats I've been receiving." Victor chuckled. "Inheritance? Oh, Emma, you have no idea what you're dealing with." They sat down in his lavish office, the walls lined with expensive artwork and shelves full of books. Victor poured 2 glasses of whiskey, offering one to Emma, who declined. Victor's eyes narrowed. "Jonathan and I were partners once, but he was a man with secrets, secrets that could ruin many lives." Emma leaned forward. "What kind of secrets?" Victor's smile faded. "Financial crimes, hidden deals, betrayals. He built his fortune on shaky ground. And when he died, many powerful people lost more than just a friend." Emma's mind reeled. This wasn't just about inheritance anymore. It was about danger, deceit, and a web of lies stretching far beyond what she'd imagined. Victor leaned closer. "You're in over your head, Emma. This money, it's not just cash. It's a symbol of power. And there are those who won't let you keep it." Emma stared at him, defiant. "I'm not afraid," Victor smirked. "You should be." Leaving Victor's office, Emma felt a mixture of fear and resolve. She was up against something bigger than a simple inheritance dispute. She knew she needed allies. That evening, Emma met Claire at a quiet cafe. "I don't know if you realize," Claire said, voice low, "but this is more dangerous than you think. Kane isn't the only one after the fortune. Jonathan's death opened a hornet's nest." Emma listened carefully. "What do you suggest?" Claire's eyes scanned the room. "We need to find Jonathan's closest confidant, someone who knows his secrets, someone who can help us." Emma's search led her to an elderly man named Henry, Jonathan's longtime personal assistant. Henry lived quietly in a small apartment, filled with books and photographs. When Emma arrived, Henry welcomed her with a weary smile. "I knew Jonathan well," he said softly. "He was a complicated man, but he cared deeply about the foundation and the world he wanted to protect." Emma asked about the inheritance and the dangers. Henry sighed. "Jonathan left behind a lot of puzzles. He trusted you because you were honest, kind, but there are forces that want to keep his secrets buried." Henry revealed a hidden ledger, a book filled with names, transactions, and cryptic notes. "This contains clues to Jonathan's true fortune, and who might want to stop you." Emma studied the pages, feeling the weight of responsibility growing heavier. Days passed with Emma and Marcus working through the information. The web of deception included corrupt officials, ruthless businessmen, and even people Emma once trusted. One night, as Emma left Henry's apartment, she sensed someone following her. Her pulse quickened. She ducked into a nearby alley, heart pounding. From the shadows, a figure stepped forward, a woman sharp and determined. "Emma Carter?" the woman asked. "I'm Rachel. I want to help." Rachel explained she had worked with Jonathan on the foundation and knew of the threats. "There's more at stake than money," Rachel said. "Jonathan's work could change the world, but people want to destroy that legacy." Emma felt a surge of hope. Together, they formed a plan to protect the foundation and expose those who wanted to silence them. But danger was closing in fast. That night, Emma's apartment was broken into again. This time, the intruder left a message scrawled on the wall: "Stop now or else." Emma stared at the words, her hands trembling but her spirit unbroken. The next day, Emma, Marcus, Claire, and Rachel gathered at the Foundation's headquarters. "We need to go public," Rachel urged. "Expose the corruption and protect Jonathan's legacy." Emma nodded. "It's risky, but it's the only way." They prepared a press release revealing Jonathan's story, the threats, and the powerful people involved. As the news spread, public support surged. People rallied behind Emma and the Foundation, but the enemies were not done. Late one evening, Emma received an anonymous tip. A secret meeting of those opposing her was happening nearby. With Marcus and Rachel, she decided to investigate. They hid behind a corner near an old warehouse, watching as suited men arrived, including Victor Kane. Emma's heart raced. This was the confrontation she had been preparing for. Suddenly, one of the men noticed them and shouted. Chaos erupted. Emma and her team ran, dodging cars and threats. In the escape, Emma's phone was snatched. She realized then just how dangerous this battle was. The night ended with Emma safe but shaken. Her fight for justice, survival, and the truth was just beginning. She knew the road ahead was treacherous, but she was ready. The story was no longer just about inheritance. It was about courage, trust, and the will to stand against overwhelming odds. Emma Carter was no longer a woman forced out. She was a woman fighting back. Emma's life had become a battlefield, one where every moment was charged with danger, betrayal, and a desperate fight for truth. The fortune she inherited was no longer just about money. It was a symbol of everything she had lost and everything she was determined to protect. After the harrowing night at the warehouse, Emma knew her enemies were more powerful and ruthless than she had imagined. The stolen phone was a devastating blow. It contained all their plans, contacts, and evidence they had painstakingly gathered. But giving up was not an option. Her allies, Marcus, Claire, and Rachel, rallied around her. They worked tirelessly, sharing what little backups they had and using encrypted channels to avoid further breaches. Each day was a high-wire act of risk and resilience. One morning, a mysterious envelope arrived at Emma's apartment. Inside was a single note. "Meet me where it all began, if you want the truth." No signature, no clues, just a challenge. Emma's mind raced. "Where it all began," the phrase echoed in her memory. Then she remembered Jonathan's childhood home, a small estate in upstate New York, now abandoned but filled with answers. The decision was made quickly. Emma, with Marcus and Rachel, would travel to the estate. It was a dangerous move, but perhaps the only way to uncover the final pieces of the puzzle. As they drove through winding country roads, the tension was palpable. Every shadow seemed to hide a threat. But Emma's determination burned brighter than fear. The estate was eerie in its silence, draped in ivy and decay. The door creaked open, revealing rooms frozen in time. Emma's footsteps echoed as they explored, each room whispering secrets of Jonathan's past. In the study, Emma found an old journal. Its pages chronicled Jonathan's life, his rise from humble beginnings, the business empires he built, and the enemies he made along the way. But one entry stood out. "The fortune is not just mine. It belongs to the world. If anything happens to me, Emma must be protected. She holds the key to the future I dreamed of." Emma's heart raced. The journal revealed a truth she had never known. Jonathan had planned for her to inherit everything, not just out of kindness, but because she shared his vision. But who wanted to stop that vision, and why? That night, as they camped in the old house, Emma shared the journal's secrets. "Jonathan trusted me," she said softly, "and now I have to trust myself." Marcus nodded. "We'll protect you, whatever it takes." Rachel added, "The world deserves to know the truth." The following days brought new revelations. Emma discovered hidden files on a secret server within the estate, exposing a network of corruption, government officials, corporate giants, and even some trusted allies who conspired to steal Jonathan's fortune and silence his legacy. With this evidence, Emma and her team planned a public expose, a story that would shake the foundations of power. But as the plan unfolded, Victor Kane and his cohort struck back. Emma's team faced cyber attacks, surveillance, and intimidation. Yet every attack only strengthened their resolve. Emma's courage inspired many, ordinary people who saw her as a symbol of hope and resilience. On the day of the expose, Emma stood before a crowd of reporters, her voice steady despite the weight of the moment. She told Jonathan's story, of his vision, his struggles, and the dark forces arrayed against them. The public reaction was overwhelming. Investigations were launched, arrests followed, and reforms began. Emma's inheritance was no longer just a fortune, it was a movement. But the true victory was personal. She had transformed from a woman forced out into a leader who reclaimed her power and purpose. In the quiet moments after the storm, Emma reflected on the journey. She realized that true wealth wasn't money, it was the strength to face fear, the courage to stand for what's right, and the hope to inspire change. The legacy Jonathan Reynolds left her was more than billions of dollars. It was a lesson in resilience, trust, and the power of one person to change the world. The end.